Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's June 15th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And you can see, looking at the daily chart, we had another very large rally day. Um, Interesting enough, it went right to our measured move. We actually went further than that, but it closed right at our measured move and right inside about where I was guesstimating that upper trend line. So maybe I got it right. Sometimes you can do that. I just kind of tried to make the midline fit in here where it made the most sense. And you can see it's fitting real nicely right along here when it took off. And that got us way overbought here. So we could be topping out finally until it turns and goes lower. Don't count on that. Just continue to trade what the market gives you. But this thing should turn down soon. And if my guess is right where this trend channel line is, which I could be off. I mean, the midline could be way up here at these highs, and we may have a long way to go yet. So I'm just kind of guesstimating it until we get a turn down and further confirmation that we're done. And so we're waiting on that before we start trying to. We'll want a down day before we start selling. As long as it keeps going up, we're going to keep buying. That's just the way it works, and sometimes it can be overbought, but we're extremely overbought. We even pushed through the brown line today, and you can see usually when you push through that brown line, it's not long this thing corrects at a very minimum. Same thing down here at the low side. Each time it corrects, it doesn't stay down there long. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, let's flip over to the 2000 tick intraday chart. You can see what it looks like, and we'll go through the trades and we'll wrap this day up. And here it is. What we have is a spike and channel up. And this is a pretty strong channel. There's multiple smaller short-term channels inside there. And I didn't color this one, but it should be some color here. Let's find something to give it. Just to make it look a little different. There you go. I did adjust this main trend line. I had it a little steeper earlier on, but as the day continued, it was pretty obvious that we had a bigger trend channel here. And so I adjusted it, just made it a little flatter, and we did bounce right off of it there. So I believe this to be correct. Really strong trend day. This might be a capitulation day. We'll have to see. But you can see these you got a green channel working up, break, couple of legs up, then we went into this flatter one, break, couple of legs up, then it's steeping back up again, and then we found another channel inside here, this cyan colored, and so it's just multiple. It helps you to find these shorter term because it explains why prices are bouncing across here. There's a trend line across there, short term, more micro trend. But let's zoom on in. You had to be patient this morning, but if you were, there was some really good trades. And we'll talk about this one in a minute, all these green arrows I put on here. 7 o'clock came right in here, but we had this 7:30 news item, so I kind of blocked that out. Then we're just kind of waiting on something to happen here. There's a failure right here, and that's also really a second entry, but I think that's a little congested to try to trade that. This trend was not very strong at this point, and you can see we did push up, just continue to, and this was tempting, but there wasn't room to scalp out. Would have worked, but you just can't risk that. But once you got this channel working up, you can tell that's a really strong channel. That's one of those, look at the little bars with lots of little stems on both sides, lots of dojis, and the corrections are very shallow. That's a really strong trend. And when you recognize those, any good signal bar that backs up where you get a little correction where it breaks lower or whatever, you just about can trade that. And you can see any one of those would have worked. You really need to know what you're doing to trade those. Not everybody should try that. But if you're sim trading, work on it, practice it. You'll, study it, but you need to learn to see those. So because if you do, any good signal bar, here was another pullback, but you didn't have a good enough signal bar. Still worked, but you really want to rely on a good signal bar that pulls back. and it needs to be a correction. Notice how that breaks lower, and you're breaking lower there, and this pulled back, and this pulls back. So same thing here. Same thing here. You needs to be that type of setup. But yeah, learn to spot those type trends. Of course, then you get a break, and notice we get a triple test here. That's also a first entry, second entry. It's a little bit congested, but that's such a nice bounce right off of a possible midline. The real problem, the reason I made this green is because it didn't break higher here. If it would have broke on higher there, I'd probably take that trade. Runs up, makes a new high, comes back, and it tests it again, and now it's wide open. Another good signal bar. I like just taking that one. Again, right off the midline. Continues to kind of chop higher, um, and then turns down. And I'd drawn that trend line across there, and that kind of confirmed it. But you can notice you get a couple more bounces here off of it too. So again, we're coming back. We get a close outside, move to a new. That one's really tempting. Maybe you take that. It's way away from the EMA. Even if it was going to give us another leg down, it's probably going to come back to that trend line. So if you got enough room, maybe you take that trade. I marked it green, but I mean, if you want, on a day like this when you got a good trend and it keeps going up and it's right off the key entry point with a nice signal bar like that, maybe you take it. You get a higher low right here again, right off the trend line with a decent signal bar. I'm definitely going to take that one. Runs up, makes a new high, and then finally you get a break on this blue channel here. Notice we're working down. You get a close outside, move to a new low. Same thing. This one I'm less likely to take because it's kind of in no man's land. We're not quite back to the trend line. I mean, really at that point, I had the trend line working a little higher, and I think it came right through there. I think it gave more of a close outside, so that was another reason. Regardless, it's not off the key entry point, no matter how you drew it. So if you adjusted it now like I did, it's still at an odd spot. So I'm not as crazy about that one. Runs on up, comes back, runs down, and suddenly you get a higher low here with a nice signal bar. Just go long right there. I like that one. It's a little risky. It's a higher low, but you have a close outside, but no new low. So this one's a little risky because you already have a breaking new high. A lot of times you'll get that second leg, and this could be a strong trend day where it just keeps going, keeps finding new trends, which is exactly what happens in the end. But you got to be a little more careful with that one. That's such a nice reversal bar. There's another second entry here, but that signal bar is not good enough. But you do get another little spike and channel up, and then eventually you get a first entry, second entry, right off the key entry point again. I like going long right there. Running on up, comes back. You do get a close outside on this one. First entry, pulls back, second entry. You could have entered that on the engulfing bar, but even if you just waited, still I like going long right there. This is a strong trend. Second entries off the EMA, and I mean, you can see you bounce multiple times off that midline right there too. And then we're working back. You get a break, move to a new low, bounces right off that possible key entry point, confirms it. Look at that signal bar, a little bit away from the EMA. I like that one. A few minutes later, you get a higher low. It breaks lower first and turns up. So you got an engulfing bar. I wouldn't be afraid to take that on the engulfing bar. But if you waited till here, it doesn't break above. It gives you this inside bar, which is a little more risky, but there's still a possibility you could enter there. Your stop has to go down here either way below this bar because it makes the swing low. But maybe you even enter there. Notice though it kind of gaps over and keeps going. I believe if you didn't enter the engulfing bar, on the engulfing bar, you probably missed this trade because it probably won't back up and fill you on that one. It actually gives you a reversal. I don't really like that entering there on a reversal, but it's another one, and it would have worked before prices backed up, so it gave you another one. But notice if you wait, and you're patient, a few minutes later you get a perfect set, 2 legs back to the trend line, the key entry point. You got a trend with a close outside, move to a new low. That's our bread and butter trade. I actually took this trade live and filmed it today, and I put it up on the website. It'll pop up. You may have seen it before this video, depending on when I can get this video out. It may come after this video, but you'll see this trade live. Be sure to watch it. Look how I actually, in an effort to try to record it, I didn't get the recorder going in time, and so I had to drop a limit order, and I just went ahead and dropped it right at the high because prices were sitting right there, and it backed up instantly, filled me, and within a few minutes later I was out. I got a little runner, and I exited at the resistance right here, so I got another 3 points or so on the runner. So it turned out to be a great trade. And then it comes right back again to the trend line. Doesn't give you a good setup this time. A lot more risky, so I just sit tight on that. And then next thing you know, we get a close outside, and this is too congested. You don't want to be going short on this day. But there is a trend working down here, and then you get a close outside and a couple of moves to a new low. Again, you bounce right off the key entry point. You might enter right here, but this is making lower highs and lower lows. So I'm going to wait on a higher low, which comes right here. And then you could go long again. And guess what? It takes off again. Maybe you get another runner here, and off it goes again. I didn't color this one. Let's just find a different odd color. Just make it green. Off it goes. Another great trade. Pulls back here and gives you a correction. I don't see anything there I'd want to take the rest of the way up there. And then turns back down, gives a break, moves to a new low. Again, it's a little congested here. Finally, you get a higher low. Maybe you take that one. There is some resistance there. And then it backs up again and gives you a failure. That's another one. You could take that one just as well, as bullish as that is. You might even enter that on the engulfing bar. It's a little congested, so I don't think I'd enter it on the engulfing bar. When it closes like that, I wouldn't be afraid to go long right there. I marked them green. It's getting kind of late in the day, and then here you are with another one of those trends on the way up. You might enter here. Up here, you've already gone the full distance, so I don't know if I enter right there into that high, that far away from the EMA. That would have kept you out of that one, just following that rule. And again, it looks a little congested too. So runs back, bounces off the key entry point. Again, you get a close outside and 2 legs back to the key entry point, confirms it. You get a higher low right here, and then you get a third tick back that gives you a failure right there. If it breaks above that, it's probably going higher. You really could enter either one of those spots because that's a higher low. This one I'm not as crazy about, but when he gives you that failure right there, that trap, and they got them trapped to the short side, and boom, they run their stops, and the next thing you know, it's right back down here again. And that pretty much takes you into 2 o'clock. And again, notice you got a channel working back. You get a close outside, new low. It makes a double bottom. Decent reversal type signal bar, a little ways away from the EMA. If there's room in there, maybe even take that one. Again, it's getting late in the day, so you got to be a little more picky now. So you might wait on a higher low here and you never get it. It just goes into the 2:30 hour. So really nice trading day. Several second entries in there. And the other thing I liked about the trade that I showed you here, this second entry, is that way back here you have a leg down, a 2-legged correction, and another leg down. So that might be your first move, and then your second move from here. And you can see that took us right up there. We actually pushed on through that, but you can see that's where it spent most of the day, right around that measured move. So I think most people will recognize that. They didn't start selling it strongly, really, but the buying kind of slowed down there, and eventually it corrected. When there's no more, you're getting too late in the day here and people aren't buying. They're just closing out their positions most likely. So there it is. 2 legs up, really strong. Maybe it's a capitulation day. We'll find out tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Really strong day, though. Again, there's going to be a live trade example of the trade I talked about. Lots of good opportunities there today. You had to kind of be patient early, and then all the trades were kind of right in there for up until about 1 o'clock, and then it kind of got quiet again. There's some more in there that you could have taken, but the really good trades were from about 9 o'clock, a little before 9 to right into the lunch hour. So that's how I saw it. We'll be back. Tomorrow's Friday. I told you I might do a chart lesson tomorrow, and I'm going to try to do one. I'm not going to promise you that yet. I'm going to see how tomorrow shapes up. I'm still trying to catch up, and but if I have time, I'll probably do a chart list. I may do it early and get that behind me and try to put it up there, but I'm not going to guarantee you that. You'll get, if you make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification button so that you get notified. That way you don't have to guess and come look. If I put one up, you'll get a notification and you'll know. Because sometimes I don't get them up consistently at the same time every day. But anyway, there it is. I'm going to wrap it up. If I don't see you tomorrow, we'll be back Monday. But I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.